Hi, in this video we'll start key area 3.6, specific cellular defences, by looking at a category of white blood cells known as lymphocytes. So these are the type of white blood cells responsible for your specific or adaptive immune response, where we're now responding or adapting our approach to specific pathogens. So different from the non-specific to generic defences we've discussed so far, this is targeted depending on what's causing the infection. So in order to know what it is exactly that the immune system's dealing with, we have to be able to recognise the individual pathogens, and we do so by recognising a structure known as antigens. So these are molecules, often proteins, that we find on the surface of all cells that act as identifiers. So when we have these uniquely shaped antigens on the surface of pathogens, this is what triggers the specific immune response. This is what the immune system, the white blood cells, are responding specifically to. So the type of white blood cell that does carry out most of this specific immune response are known as the lymphocytes. They come in different types, B and T cells, which will be the subject of their own individual videos. So what these lymphocytes are responding to are the antigens. So they have a receptor somewhere for these antigens to bind, and when that happens, this is specifically what's triggering our response. So let's take a look what does happen whenever these antigens and lymphocytes come together. So our body makes many different types of lymphocytes, all with a single type of membrane receptor, so unique to the lymphocyte. And because it's uniquely shaped, there will only be one type of antigen that has a complementary shape that will be capable of binding. So if the antigen and lymphocyte match, that binding is what's going to select the required lymphocyte. That lymphocyte will then divide repeatedly via mitosis, make lots and lots of copies of itself. This is what forms the clonal population. So a build-up of these identical lymphocytes, which are capable of then responding to the antigen on the surface of the pathogens. So let's try some past paper questions. So pause the video and hit play when you're ready to reveal the answers. So the first one is an example of a multiple choice question. So we have a diagram which represents the production of clonal population of lymphocytes. So the division of cell Y is stimulated by A, the presence of lymphocytes X and Z, presence of an antigen in the blood, binding of antibodies to receptors in the cell membrane, or D, the binding of antigens to receptors on the cell membrane. So the answer is D. So it's when the antigen on the pathogen binds to the receptors which is on the cell membrane of that lymphocyte. So it's the coming together of these two structures that leads to the cell division and leads to the formation of a clonal population. So question 2 is a short response question. This time we've got specific cellular defences are part of the body's immune system and give protection against individual types of pathogen. And you were asked to explain how a clonal population of lymphocytes would be formed when a pathogen invades the body. So this one was worth 2 marks. The first mark for saying the receptor on the lymphocyte bound to the antigen on the pathogen. And then for the second mark, this then leads to repeated division of the lymphocyte, and that's how we form the clonal population. Also accept mitosis in place of division, and it was also accept that lymphocyte makes many copies of itself, so a description in place of the terminology. Note as well how the key terms receptors and antigen are underlined. This means they're essential to your description to get the marks. So, in any description, any explanation of how a clonal population forms, you must make mention of the receptors and the antigens. So hopefully that makes it a lot more clear on the action of the lymphocytes and how we get our adaptive specific immune response. But if you do have any further questions, you can let me know.